Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. Welcome to the Increase or Paid Search Conversion with Creative Optimization webinar. My name is Chach, and I'm the head of marketing here at Boost Media. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the 45 minutes to an hour out of your day to get on the phone and learn about creative optimization. For those of you who don't know, creative optimization is an emerging technique born from search engine marketing that provides, a true competitive advantage for any digital marketer. Our goal today here is to educate you guys on what creative optimization is and how it can make you a better marketer. Today, I'm joined by my co-pilot, Sarah Burns, content manager here at Boost. She'll be co-moderating me.
Thanks, Chach. Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to be here with you guys today. As Chach mentioned, creative optimization is a new technique in search marketing, and we hope that you're able to learn something new today. Just a couple of housekeeping items to kick us off. We're going to be live tweeting throughout the webinar, as well as taking down any of your questions and comments. So please be sure to tweet at BoostCTR and use the hashtag #CreativeMatters in any of your tweets, and we'll answer any of your questions or comments that you have. Also, today's webinar is going to be recorded, so you can access the content again for future reference. Lastly, and most importantly, after the webinar, we're going to have an infographic available to you. It's got 6 tips to test your way to winning ads, and we'll provide you with a URL to this at the end of the presentation. Now I'd like to introduce to you our 2 presenters today. Today we're going to have Prathiba Ramamurthy and Alex Weber. Prathiba is the lead customer success manager here at Boost. She works with some of our largest travel, retail, and finance advertisers across the UK and US markets. In a former life, she worked at Google, managing channel partnerships. She's got a wealth of knowledge on search marketing. She's a really great resource for our clients. We're happy to have her here to talk with you guys today. Also joining us is Alex Weber, a customer success manager at Boost. Alex manages some of our largest accounts, including the Yahoo Partnership Program, as well as leading brand names in the sports, retail, and travel industries. Previously, Alex worked at Geary LSF, one of the leading digital agencies. Both of our speakers today, they're AdWords experts, and they have a collective 10 years of experience in search marketing.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Hi, everyone. Happy to get started today.
Yeah, thanks, Alex, Prathiba, for joining us. Before we start, I do want to talk about Boost Media. This presentation is brought to you by Boost Media. We're a company that's really committed to helping advertisers increase their ad relevance at scale. We do that by having this unique platform called the Creative Optimization Platform, where digital marketers can source ad creative from real human beings. Our platform allows you to test and optimize your human-created ad copy to find out what messaging works best with your customer. We started about in 2009, and we've kind of grown really exponentially over the years. Today, we optimize ad creative for over 100 enterprise brands, and we manage over $1 billion worth in ad spend. So I'm going to hand it back over to Prathiba. Thank you.
Thanks, George. That was a great synopsis of what Boost Media does. So now let's review what's in store for us today. We'll begin this webinar by talking about creative optimization and getting informed what it is, who uses it, and why. We'll then take a look to see what most marketers are doing today at the account level. And after we get an understanding of what creative optimization is, we'll discuss how you can enhance your account, give you some tips and tricks so you can get started today. And lastly, we'll have ample time for Q&A at the end, so make sure that you tweet at BoostCTR using the hashtag #CreativeMatters throughout the presentation with any questions that you may have.
Awesome, thanks, Prathiba. All right, so let's talk about the story of digital advertising. To fully understand creative optimization, you really have to understand the story of digital advertising, which we would like to consider comprising of 3 chapters here at Boost. We also call this the 3 pillars. A digital marketer needs all 3 to complete the story and be successful. Chapter 1 is keywords. As most of you already know, keywords help connect people to the things they are looking for online and help digital marketers bring people and the products they are looking for together via keyword search auctions. Keywords make it easier for you to attract the right people looking for your products and services. The second chapter is bidding. A marketer needs to know how much spend should be allocated to one keyword and the next. Bid management platforms have allowed digital marketers to execute complex and real-time bidding strategies. Marketers that leverage bid management platforms will often see upticks in campaign performance based on this micromanagement of their inventory and are able to monitor what's going on with their SEM more intimately. It's a well-known fact that most marketers today typically lean towards keywords and bidding as their primary focus, often neglecting the third chapter. For many moons, there have been huge investments in technology platforms which focus on optimizing keywords and bids. Yet at the heart of these is campaign for creative, the third chapter, which is often an afterthought. What I often like to think about here is like a shop facade and basically the first impression that you're giving to those people seeing your brand. Marketers more often than not neglect this though, because it's time consuming and places a strain on resources. Today we are going to be talking about the third part of the story, add creative. And don't forget that hashtag creative matters as well. Creative is the most important part of your search campaigns. This is what your consumers see, your shop's facade. We at Boost think you should be investing in technology in this area of your search efforts, the same way you've been investing in the previous two chapters to complete the story. All right, so what is creative optimization? It is the practice of enhancing and augmenting messaging to improve campaign and ad group performance. Creative optimization allows marketers to personalize their messaging according to each potential visitor of their site. And moving on, who uses creative optimization? Well, pretty much anyone in paid search will perform creative optimization in some way, shape or form. Paid search marketers across leading global brands, especially in retail, often make use of creative optimization to enhance their SEM inventory and keep it fresh for new promos and new product deals. Agencies also use creative optimization to better serve their clientele and deliver results for each of their clients. And moving down the funnel, we can also look at local level advertisers. There are creative optimization tools tailored to the smaller spender and less experienced marketers. For example, for plumbers and locksmiths who might not have any idea about SEM, these tools like AdWords Express will really help their cause here.
Now that we've covered what creative optimization is and who uses it, let's review some of the benefits and really see why marketers should use creative optimization. Simply put, creative optimization enhances your campaign performance and increases conversion rate. But what it does in addition really is helps you to stand out from your competition. So when you and your competitors are bidding on similar keywords, the creative messaging that your consumer sees as a result of his search query and how relevant your ad is to what they're typing is what will differentiate you from the rest and prompt an action. Focusing on creative also allows you to pull an emotional lever with your marketing messaging. Imagine if you knew exactly what to say to evoke a certain response or emotion from your consumer. What we've seen is connecting with consumers at an emotional level in the ad creative also helps to increase your conversions. And lastly, optimizing ad copy allows you to create diversity in messaging, and it caters to different kinds of consumers. The call to action for one demographic may not resonate with what someone else wants to see. So what you want to be doing is testing all these different scenarios.
All right, Prathiba, thank you for sharing those insights. We're going to get started with a quick pop quiz. We're going to play a little game to help illustrate the difference between an ad with intent and an ad with emotion. So what you'll see on this next slide, you see two different ads for Prada shoes from a major retail brand. Ad number 1 on the left provides the customer with a benefit. It says free shipping and returns. Ad number 2 on the right tells the customer that Prada shoes, they look and feel fabulous. So now we're going to take a quick poll of the audience. Which ad do you think did better? Ad number 1 or ad number 2? All right, so we've gotten a couple of different answers. Thanks for participating, you guys. If you said ad number 2, you are correct. This ad actually had a 47% difference in conversion rate. The reason why this difference is so staggering is because ad number 2, quite simply, it's more emotional. The customer wants to look and feel fabulous, and therefore they would want to buy these Prada shoes. Ad number 1 is essentially saying, there's a chance you're not going to like these shoes, but you can send them back to us and we're not going to charge you. So consumers are people, and statistically, consumers are proven to respond to emotional messaging. In order to figure out what emotional messaging works, smart marketers practice creative optimization.
Great, that was a fun poll. So Sarah, here are 3 versions of the same ad. We're going to play a little game in a couple more minutes, so listen carefully. On the bottom left, you'll see an original ad copy. That's your typical ad. It highlights features and benefits. It says car rental deals, compare low rates. Then we said, how can we change this ad to drive more intent? What can we modify? What we said is, let's look at the headline and let's replace car rental deals with short car rental deals, and that's driving more action and leading people to click. What we saw is the intent-driven ad had an increase of 7% in your conversion per impression. And the ad on the top right here, that's an ad that mixes in emotion. So this one says cheap car rentals, don't overpay for your car rental. Now at this time, we're going to take another poll of the people listening in. And the question today is, how much better did the emotional ad number 3, do over the baseline ad? So take the next 10 to 15 seconds and log in your answers for us. Okay, great. So the poll's closed now. Thanks for everyone who answered. And I saw that 32% said that this ad, the third ad, was better 40 to 60% over the baseline ad. The correct answer was given by 14% of the audience, and that answer is that the ad driving emotional intent converted 62% higher than an ad that did not. So here's empirical proof, right, that humans respond to an emotion, any emotion. And why do people really buy? They buy to solve a problem. Specifically in this industry, which is car rentals, what's the number one issue that people have when they get off airports and they're driving to pick a rental car? You don't want to overpay, and you want to make sure you price compare. So that's what ad number 3 said. It said cheap car rentals, don't overpay for your car rental, and it also used elements of ad number 2, and it said compare hundreds of car rental rates. And what we saw is to drive an intent, and to drive an action, emotional messaging really works with your consumers.
Awesome, I'm loving these polls, Prathiba. Okay, so let's break an ad down and see how many different parts there are to an ad. Now keep in mind that an ad is less than a tweet. A tweet's 140 characters, an ad's full character limit is 130. Crazy, huh? So I think it would be useful for you guys to see how we can truly dissect the elements of a search ad and see just how many different levers you can pull in one single piece of ad copy. As you can see on this slide, there are so many different elements that comprise an ad. There is so much more to it than initially meets the eye. And as a digital marketer, you need to know the components of these search ads. One small tweak in ad creative can have a surprisingly profound effect on your overall ad group, and indeed campaign performance. For example, you may find that including a call to action in the main body of the ad is a way better practice for your pending audience than placing it in the headline, or perhaps using a question in the headline to catch the potential visitor's imagination. It's important to realize that you cannot optimize all of these elements with template ad copy across your inventory. You can test certain parts for sure, but you will not cater for them all. Now that you've got a feel for why marketers need to think about creative optimization, let's examine what's happening in a typical advertiser's account, shall we, Prathiba?
Thanks, Alex. So here's what a typical account looks like in a graph form. The section that you see to the far left is commonly referred to as the head of the account. And in the head is where your best performing, your most profitable ads and keywords exist. Think of it as, if you are an advertiser, the head is really where you have your branded keywords and messaging. The section in the middle is known as the trunk of the account. The ads here are somewhere in between with regards to performance and profitability. And the section in the far right that is elongated, it is known as the tail. So here's where your long tail keywords are grouped into several different ad groups. The tail is also the place with limited opportunity today. So most marketers are investing in resources and time on the head and moving the tail. But the portion that's in between, that's the trunk, is not really being addressed today. We'll come back to the slide in just a minute, but now let's go over and see, if you are someone who's looking to creatively optimize, what can you do today to get started?
Awesome. So I'm going to talk about the steps, and then Prathiba will take over from me. I was talking to someone just yesterday about the stock market and how differently percentages change and stock trading happens. Advertising can be very much likened to that, and I'm sure many of you know, especially during the busy periods, you're checking your accounts every hour. So here's the steps to effectively optimizing your account. It's a multi-step process, so let's take a few minutes to outline these. First of all, you want to prioritize which of your ad groups to optimize. What's going to have the biggest impact on your account? Next up, you want to aim to write 1 to 2 preliminary ads per ad group, making sure these ads convey the message, products, or services you are trying to promote. After that, you want to test and measure your ads until you reach a desired statistical significance, never an easy word to say, and a confident test conclusion. Then we repeat these writing and testing steps several times, also taking into account things like ad fatigue after the first 2 or 3 months.
So once you're done with step 1 to 4, what you want to be spending time on is investing to deep dive into your account and diagnose and figure out what messaging is working, what's not. Are some phrases doing better? Are some doing not so much? And then what can you actually take from these learnings and where can you apply them? And lastly, and most importantly, you need to constantly keep working on your ad copy based on all the insights you drew in ad 5. So to have this process laid out as smooth as possible, it's imperative that you have 2 things. One is the testing framework or a platform. You need to lay out your objectives to test, how long you want to test, what objective, what messaging. And the second thing is how are you going to source new ad copy? So remember this slide that we spoke about, that this is what a typical account structure looks like. Now let's take a look at an account that routinely performs creative optimization. And you'll see that some things have changed here. Now this account has taken into account the learnings and insights gained from testing and has applied these insights to the entire account. And what results is an overall increase in performance. In plain English, you're going to now see a healthier account because you invested time and effort based on your learnings to optimize your creative, and you're really now moving the needle to improve performance overall.
Good stuff. So let's have a look at the best practices to get you started, shall we? To get started using creative optimization in your accounts, these are the 5 elements that should be considered as your holy grail.
So the first one is monitoring and optimizing your keyword list regularly. Now, smart marketers will also review your search query and make sure that the ads, the keywords that have the most global searches are somewhere in your keyword list. You also need to make sure that your ads are actually aligned to your keyword searches. When you do this, when you increase relevancy of your creative to your keyword list, it translates to improving your quality score. And higher your quality score is, better your click-through rate is going to be. And ultimately, all these search platforms are going to recognize your ads are being extremely relevant. Your quality score is great, and they're going to reward you. How are they going to do that? By lowering your cost per click and improving your overall ad position. Now, we said that under keywords, you need to have an ad to keyword alignment. But what's also important is grouping these similar keywords and structuring your account. Now, think of it, if you have 3 different keywords, one of them is hotels in LA. The other one is hotels in Venice Beach, Los Angeles. And the third one is hotels in California. These are 3 very different keywords and they should not be in the same ad group. What you want to be doing is once you list out all your keywords, you want to group similar keywords and make them one very tight ad group. And then you want to be taking ad group themes and making them into one campaign. Ultimately, your account structure should best reflect your landing page. So think of this, when as a user, I'm searching for a keyword, I show a relevant piece of ad copy, and then when they click on that ad copy, you've actually taken them to the most important and relevant piece of the landing page itself. So landing page and mirroring your creative messaging to the landing page is going to increase your relevancy, and that's step number 3. If you're calling out free shipping and returns in your ad and your landing page does not support your claims, you're going to see that your ad rank may slip. Because remember, ad rank is a combination of your bid and other components of the quality score like expected CTR, ad relevance, landing page experience, etc.
Awesome. So let's move on to number 4. So the flexibility in creative testing is really key here, I think, Prathiba. Having too many rules, for example, is boring, right? We want to make writing ad copy an exciting process, especially if you are a creative writer. So when you test, have some boundaries, of course, but don't be afraid to push the limits. You don't want too many rules and limitations because this means less creative freedom for you to write and less to test. Also, having one ad per ad group, is definitely too few. Adding 1 to 2 differing ads per ad group will improve your overall impression allocation. If the user isn't clicking your ad the first few times, you may not get as good a second shot. If you only have one ad, you are limiting your potential audience reach, and more often than not will not connect emotionally when you only have a single format of messaging. Moving on to the most exciting part of this process, mobile optimization. This is a brand new device preference, I guess you could say. I say brand new, but especially in search engine terms. And this is where people really need to tap in. For instance, Facebook, they've done a great job over Google of tapping into this network. So a new mobile ad format is here. Using the same ad creative for desktop and mobile is definitely not a good idea. Everything you are doing on desktop also needs to be honed to mobile messaging, or else you will miss opportunities that other marketers in your space have perhaps already thought about. Stay ahead of the curve. It is imperative to alter your messaging by device.
So behavior on mobile is very different from desktop search. You need to add at least one mobile preferred ad in each ad group so that when people are searching on the mobile device, you're actually being shown. And search on mobile is also slightly different. Like if you are someone on the run and you're testing and you're searching for keywords on your mobile, you're looking for a more immediate response. So how do you tap into this audience? What you can do is, besides just having a mobile optimized ad, you should also have mobile specific call to actions. You want to be saying things like call to book a table, find a nearby store, or buy with one click. Because really, when people are searching on the mobile device, some of them may actually go ahead and make a purchase, but some of them may rather search on the mobile, come back home, and actually complete the action on the desktop search. So using these 5 practices of making sure that your keywords are aligned to your ad, setting up your account for success, relative and relevant messaging from your ad to your landing page, having flexible guidelines when it comes to creative testing, and really optimizing for mobile should be your holy grail and 5 best practices as a roadmap for setting up your account to creatively be optimized.
Awesome. So we're seeing a lot of questions coming in on the webinar at the moment, and if we don't have a chance to get back to you during the webinar, we'll certainly answer them afterwards. But we won't forget to get back to you, I promise. Okay, so let's look at what messaging works for you. I thought what we'd do here is show you some insights from the Boost perspective and what we present to customers. And adding on to these best practices, we thought we'd share these things right now. Okay, so for starters, if you're an advertiser, you should know your strongest messaging. But do you have insight into which specific words and phrases resonate with your target audience? Well, this is mission critical, guys. Look at your performance and top performing keywords and phrases by conversion rate or click-through rate and volume, for example. You'd be surprised at how the best performing ads all have similar groups of words, and these same words will often keep popping up in your best performing ads. I think the surprising thing here is that we tend to use the same words across ad groups, but we might not realize that we are. So the data science team here at Boost really do an amazing thing of pulling this together. So at Boost, we like to apply an ad science known as lexical analyses to determine the strongest words or phrases, because no matter what way you creatively optimize, it's crucial to understand the words that resonate most with your consumer. Let's see how we can apply this on the next slide. So as I was saying, lexical analyses is the precursor to hypothesis testing. And hypothesis testing is basically the identification of 2 words that we can use against each other. So this first part of the table, you can see that cheap has performed 0.64% CTR versus save at 0.42. However, the volume of both of each, is huge, the difference, So basically what we want to do here is make sure that we're testing cheap versus save side by side, have a true AV 50% share of the impressions. Then we move on to phrase analyses, description of discounts. So we've identified great deals and deep discounts are used often. And again, we do have a slight difference in CTR, but remember here that we're not actually testing these side by side. We're testing them randomly throughout the account. So let's really drill into what the performance is by running a test in a control set of ad groups.
That was some really insightful things, guys. Most of us are not really thinking of these. We run a bunch of tests. We test A/B, and then we say, okay, here are the results. But what you do with these results, can you then use this messaging in multiple channels, is what makes any test more interesting. So here's another test that we ran on ad copy length. We want to know if there is an optimal copy length that advertisers should strive for. And what you see here is from the data, we determined that ads that have full character usage have a 30% better click-through rate when compared to ads that are using fewer characters. And you can see here that if your ad had 65 to 67 characters, you're somewhere about 70% in terms of click-through rate. But when you use more landscape, when you have 68 to 70 characters, your click-through rate actually shoots up to be 104%. Now, the best practice here that I can recommend is to make sure you use as much of the character limit as possible in your creative. And how can you do this? You can play around in multiple ways. Alex spoke about a couple of them as well. You need to be calling out the features and benefits of your product. You need to make it more interesting. You can ask a question and then deliver an answer. You can make an interesting call to action. Everyone says free shipping. So what can you do to differentiate yourself from everybody else?
Thank you, Prathiba. That was awesome. Thank you for those great insights. Now we want to share a little video that we have from Letitia Kiefer. For those of you who don't know, Letitia is a big fan of Boost. She's the director of group search over at Mediacom and works on the biggest brands in the world, including Gap and Coca-Cola. Her team at Mediacom performs creative optimization regularly. She has some good insights here about testing that we want to share with you. So it seems like we have a little video difficulty, but you can still watch this video at bit.ly at adfatigue. You can also visit our YouTube channel at youtube.com/boostmediainc to watch this video. So we've received a few great questions throughout the presentation, and we want to make sure that our team here answers these questions for you. So first question from Sarah Holder. So she says she works in the financial service industry, and the testing has shown the question has shown that our testing has shown that direct deploy marketing tends to perform better.
Sarah, that's a great question. I think to rephrase for those of you who didn't hear that right, is that her question specifically said, in the finance industry, I've seen messaging being more direct, right? So how can we then play on with emotional messaging to make this more relevant in my industry? So here's the thing, guys. We at Boost, we work with people from different verticals. And what we've seen is, yes, retail is great. It's like a perfect fit in the hand and glove for someone who's using emotional messaging. But even within industries like B2B and finance, you can still play around with emotions. Think of it like, credit score or free credit online. So the way you can refine this messaging is if you are being direct, yes, for your branded keywords, maybe people are actually searching for what they want to see. And then you don't really need to play around with words. You need to give them what they're looking for. But think of it as increasing your click-through rate. Do you want to show for a select group of demographic, or do you also want to show around for people thinking about what your industry is? Alex, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add here that I think, things like keywords and mentions in the ads of those keywords is essential, but not the be-all and end-all. You have to consider those different elements that you see here. So, adding the keyword in the headline, yes, that is a good practice. And also speaking for, what we were talking about earlier and having more kind of creative freedom around your ads and not having too many rules. That's key to the success of testing and having more than one ad in an ad group as well.
Great, thank you for those answers. We'll start with question number 2 now. This was also from Sarah, so we'll go ahead and answer that. The question is, how do you balance relevance and emotional pools using few characters in an ad?
Sure, so we kind of covered that in the last question. Sarah, thanks for asking these great questions. Really appreciate it. We're always happy to answer these after the webinar as well if you have any additional ones. So balancing relevance and emotional pools. Yes, we do have 130 characters in an ad, but if you can think about it like a tweet, for a tweeter, I think is the right term, then you can you'll be surprised how well you can describe your brand, things like that, using hashtags in the same form in an ad. So in terms of relevance, again, let's go back to the keywords. Google will reward you for the likes of keywords in ads and making sure that they are linked to the landing page, and also the emotional pools. So if you look at like don't overpay, that's referring to a financial sector ad, I believe. That was an emotional pool in that emotive ad that we had at the top. It isn't easy to fit everything into so few characters, but again, testing more ads and having, thinking outside of the box is key to this, I would say. Prathiba, have you got any things to add for that?
Yeah, I think one other thing, Alex, you bring up a great point of keywords, right? So people say that if you have keywords and you use those keywords in your ad creative, you're going to increase your relevance. But how do you make that balance? Do you want to have every single line with a keyword, or do you actually want to throw, yes, your keyword in the headline or in line 1, but also have a meaning out of those keywords? Because sometimes, you'll see ads that have like 4 lines of bolded blue copy because they've used a keyword in every single line. But as a whole, do every line actually make sense? And that's what you want to balance in terms of being relevant. Yes, use your keywords, but also complete your thought, like ask a question, deliver an answer, make it interesting for the consumer.
Yeah.
And really see what is the question that you're searching for. Like if you're looking for Los Angeles, Venice Beach hotels, what are they looking for? They're looking to book a hotel in Venice Beach, in Los Angeles. So you have to play around with those emotions and give them something that's relevant and also throw in a call to action that's interesting.
Absolutely. So another really interesting area here, and this is a question from Eric Ford, I believe. Thanks, Eric, for asking the question. So ad fatigue. Ad fatigue's definitely sort of an unknown factor at this point in time to some extent, but at Boost here, we're working on the science of ad fatigue and how it can really affect your ad groups. I think one of the best ways to tackle ad fatigue is to have something like an A/B testing schedule. And what we do with that is basically we have a plan of action where we test different campaigns and ad groups over a course of time and then come back to those in the next 3 months. This can be a schedule in the form, and I said schedule this time, not schedule, I apologise to my English listeners here. This can be in the form of an Excel spreadsheet. So you'd have everything categorised, by campaigns or, categories that you want to work on at, maybe a quarter of a year, and then Q2 you want to work in a different, and then you return back to the Q1 ads to see how they're doing. But again, here at Boost, we are working on analysing how ad fatigue does and seeing that drop off in conversions and things like that compared to the previous period.
Great. We got another question here from Twitter. Direct message from Cameron Clare. And this is a good one here. So she asks, what suggestions do you have for mobile ad copy for B2C lead gen site? So if you guys are B2C, this is a good one to pay attention to.
Great. Thank you for tweeting Creative Matters at Boost CTR. We actually have some really fun questions. So let's take the first one, which is, if I am a B2C lead gen site, how can I optimize my mobile ad copy? So business to consumer, guys, this is the most exciting part, right? So there's so many things that you can do specific to mobile. So I'm going to try hashing out a couple, and then I'm going to hand it over to Alex, who, if you have any thoughts, feel free to jump in.
Sure.
So the first things you have to do is, when you think of mobile ads and how they're different from desktop ads, remember that your ad rank on mobile cannot slip. You have to be in the first 3 positions to be relevant, right? In desktop, you can say, well, I'm an ad rank 4 and I only really have 3 people ahead of me. In mobile, if you're not in the top 3, you stop being relevant. So that's step number 1. So step number 2, when you're writing an ad on mobile, you have fewer characters to play with. Let's assume so let's assume it's a WP ad. It's not a fully optimized mobile device ad. So in this case, what you really want to be doing is picking 1 to 2 key selling points and using something that's more mobile driven. If you're business to consumer, you want to direct them to take an action from your mobile ad. You want to say things like click now or call to book a table. Be more relevant. And finally, when that ad is driven to a landing page, it has to be thumb friendly, guys. There have been so many frustrating moments when you're trying to book something like a ticket or a table or go to a movie, and suddenly that mobile app or that mobile landing page is not optimized. You're still seeing a desktop ad on your mobile, and that is going to tank your ad rank. So if you are B2C, for your mobile ad copy, play around with your call to action, be relevant, make sure that your quality score is great and you're in ad rank 1, 2, or 3. And finally, optimize your landing page. That is really, really important.
I think you pretty much nailed it there, Prathiba, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Another question we have is, when do you consider a test significant? It's a great question. It can really depend on the type of volume that you have. So typically we go for a 14-day duration here at Boost as an average. But if you have a low volume, just a couple of clicks, per week, it's definitely worth looking at a longer period of time. And that also, you have to take into account things like the difference in CTR or CPI or revenue per impression, for example. These are all, differing factors and a very organic process, as we know the search engine marketing industry is.
All right, we got one last question here before we sign off. This is another one from Twitter. As far as messaging goes, what trends in the travel industry are you seeing? Oh, this is a really good one for all you travel marketers out there. Yeah. Travel and hospitality is actually one of our strong suits here. Prathiba, why don't you take this one?
Thanks, you guys. So travel is very interesting, and I work with two travel customers, and I know Alex works
Yeah.
with a couple of them as well. So with travel, what you're trying to see is a few different things, right? So when you think of a flight booking versus a hotel booking, a flight booking, your ROAS on that is going to be a lot lower than, say, booking a hotel room. What you also see with hotel room bookings is your conversion latency, or when from the day you show an ad to a consumer, they go back and forth between multiple ads, they do a price compare, they go to multiple websites to price compare, and they finally come back to your ad and make that conversion and go ahead and book a room to your website.
I think comparing is a key part of this,
Yeah.
right? We see a lot of people comparing and suggesting compare.
Yeah, so you're going to see that as people go back and forth, your latency period to actually get that conversion is also slightly longer than a typical retail ad, right? Let's think about it. If you want to buy a phone, you're going to go back and forth a couple of times.
Yeah.
If you want to take a really expensive vacation, if I want to fly to Hawaii, I need to know what are the different options I have. So in retail, I think people are also striving to be relevant to the millennial generations,
Yeah.
right? It's very different, like from when I look for a holiday to when, say, my father was looking for hotels.
Yeah.
It's very different online right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think honesty is key as well, right? To be honest, in your ad copy, you can easily just say up to 70% off. But then if you can say, truth revealed and drill into really why, I mean, if you can in an ad, that's great, because a lot of people see these up to 70% off every day, and it gets generic after a while. So think hard about the honesty that you're having as well as the emotion.
Yeah, and what, you bring up an interesting point. I saw an ad recently, and it said, yes, you get like free rentals or X% off, but it also said, come feel the sweeping southern beauty, right? So I want to go to that place. I want to see where that place is, what the view from that hotel window is going to be. So being honest, true, and also being descriptive. Why is your hotel, or why is your industry, or your travel option better suited for a consumer? Who are the demographics you're playing around with? How much is your bid? So these things are all great questions to think about, specifically in the travel industry.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys, for your great questions today, and Prathiba and Alex for sharing those insights. That's all the time that we have today. We promised that this was going to be under 45 minutes. So thank you again for joining us for this webinar on creative optimization. On this slide is the URL that we promised in the beginning. This URL, you're going to be able to access the infographic with 6 testing tips that you can do today. So be sure to check out this infographic. It's really helpful testing tools that we found here at Boost. Also, just a quick reminder to please fill out the survey that's going to be coming to you via email. We're really looking forward to hearing all the feedback from the webinar and making future webinars more useful. So thanks again for your time, everybody. We really appreciate it. Thanks for your questions and for listening in, and take care, everybody.